Our theme today deals with this interesting phenomenon of what I call the stock market flatline effect, a period of time where the market will go up and down, but over time doesn't really make any money at all, as we saw between the years of 2000 and 2015. Which leads me to discuss this Tony in the Trenches from Dave in Bowling Green, who shared his frustrations with me about his concerns of leaving all of his money in the stock market during retirement. Here's what he had to say. Tony, I recently got frustrated with my current advisor who I've worked with and enjoyed over the years when she would not respond to my suggestion to move me to safer territory. I reminded her that I'm 65 and I want to play it safe from here on out, but she refused to change my investments. How would you respond to such a request if you were my advisor? First, as a fiduciary at Tony Walker Financial, we are always going to do what our clients tell us to do. Now, that doesn't mean we might question them to be sure they have thought through what they are asking, but in the end, this is the client's money. And if a client is fearful of the stock market and tells us they want out, we are going to respond immediately and get them out of the stock market. But more importantly, since we are dealing with savers and know that during retirement they do not like to take a lot of risk, we're going to rely on a retirement game plan to guide us as to where to invest this money, not just blindly throwing it in the stock market and hoping for the best. This philosophy, which is so different from the rest of the financial herd, is not only born out of working with thousands of savers over these past 41 years, but it is, in my humble opinion, a very biblical approach to investing one's life savings, especially when one is retired. Because the real question is not how much you should stockpile for a future that is uncertain at best, but how much do you really need to live on in the first place? That's the real question, and one that most advisors and big financial institutions do not understand. And where does a right understanding of God's take on retirement and how much we should have stockpiled for the future begin? Well, it begins with simply focusing on today and making sure you've got today covered. Check it out in Charles Spurgeon's morning and evening devotional, where Spurgeon reminds us of this daily truth where he says, "Sufficient for the day is all that we can enjoy." Translation according to Tony, you only need so much money for what today is requiring of you. And the beauty of leading our own life and setting our own spending goals is this. You don't need me or any other so-called financial expert telling you what you should spend and what you should spend it on. No, what you need is a daily dose of faith that what you have is sufficient for today. I think this is why Jesus had to remind us of the birds of the air and how they focused on God providing for them each day, which He does each day. But still, while today's dollar might be sufficient for today, we also, like the birds of the air, must be responsible for either working for our food or relying on what we've saved to provide the daily sustenance we'll need in the future. And that's where being logical and practical with your money comes in, especially if you are a saver. Folks, just because you made a lot of money in the stock market in your 401k over the years doesn't mean you'll have the same positive experience by staying in the market during your retirement years. And the market flatlines while you're taking money out to live on, well, one day you could run out of money, which I don't think is what God is encouraging us to think about. So how does one strike a balance of investing for the future and spending money as God provides us each day to spend? Well, let me share with you the key to being worry-free in retirement, and here it is. Number one, know what you have to work with. Number two, get a written game plan to see how the numbers will play out both today and over time. Number three, assume that you will not take a lot of risk with your money and therefore only assume very realistic and modest returns as you project into the future. At Tony Walker Financial, we like to use the rate of return of 3% just so we can be very conservative on our numbers moving forward. Number four, take on the philosophy of Live Well, Die Broke, a tried and true method I explain in my best-selling book that is so opposite of what the financial world keeps telling you to do. And in the end, no matter what you might have, both for today and in the future, settle in on what the Apostle Paul learned about this notion of being content. In other words, no matter what the circumstances and no matter how much you have in the future or today, in Philippians 4, Paul reminds us of this, that we are to be content in all circumstances. And Paul learned this, to live humbly and to know that whatever was going on, whether he was full or hungry, he was going to be content. You know, this idea of living what I refer to as the flat-lined life of contentment, where our emotions about life and money do not go up too much when things are going good, nor go down too much when things are going bad, is living a true and healthy life, one filled with God's Spirit rather than being controlled by our flesh. So, dear Christian, the next time you fall victim to letting your emotions get the best of you, yes, even when it comes to investing in risky things you do not understand, you remember these basic principles, and I assure you, you will worry less about money both today and in the future.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like, check out these other clips, and be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button for more videos.